What if the peace you're searching for isn't in doing more, fixing more, or controlling everything, but in letting go? In today's episode, we'll explore the power of surrender, what it truly means to stop resisting life, and how embracing the flow can unlock freedom, clarity, and inner strength. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Cost of Control. Why resistance creates suffering. We all want to feel safe, in control, certain. It's human nature. We plan, we predict, we push. We tell ourselves, if I can just get everything right, then I'll finally feel okay. But here's the truth most of us are afraid to face. Control is an illusion, and our desperate attempts to hold on, to control people, outcomes, or even our own emotions, are often the very thing that keeps us stuck in cycles of anxiety, fear, and disappointment. Resistance begins subtly. You get an unexpected message and feel tension in your chest. Plans change and you get irritated. Someone doesn't behave the way you expected and suddenly you're spiraling in frustration or blame. That's resistance. It's the internal no we silently scream at life. No, this shouldn't be happening. No, I can't handle this. No, this isn't what I wanted. But the more we resist, the more we suffer. Why? Because we're fighting reality. And reality always wins. Think about it. How much energy have you wasted trying to control the uncontrollable? Trying to change people who don't want to change. Trying to rewrite the past. Trying to force yourself to be someone you're not just to please others. That struggle? It's exhausting. And it disconnects us from the present moment, where peace actually lives. When we resist what is, we create tension. When we cling to how we think life should be, we miss the wisdom of how life actually is. Suffering doesn't come from the events themselves. It comes from our attachment to a different version of reality. A version where nothing goes wrong. Where everything makes sense. Where we're always in control. But life is not a straight line. It's unpredictable. It's wild. It's alive. And when we try to tame it, we often end up taming our own spirit in the process. So the question becomes, what are you really trying to control? And at what cost? When you hold on tightly, what do you lose? Joy, peace, presence? Your ability to breathe, to relax, to trust? The irony is that control never truly delivers the safety it promises. Because there's always another variable, another thing to worry about, another piece to fix. The deeper invitation, the one most of us avoid, is this: to trust what we don't understand, to soften into the unknown, to meet life on its terms, not ours. That's not giving up. That's waking up. So as we move into this episode, I want to invite you to reflect. Where in your life are you resisting the flow? Where are you clinging, controlling, or forcing? And most importantly, what would it feel like to just let go? Chapter 2: What surrender really means and what it's not. When most people hear the word surrender, they think of weakness, giving up, quitting, losing. But true surrender is none of those things. Surrender is not about becoming passive. It's not about letting life walk all over you or pretending that you're okay with things that hurt you. It's not apathy, and it's definitely not defeat. Surrender is strength. It's courage. It's a quiet, powerful decision to stop fighting what is, so you can start aligning with what can be. It's about loosening your grip on control and placing your trust in something deeper. Call it the universe, God, your higher self, or simply the flow of life. Surrender is saying, I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. I trust that even in uncertainty, I can still move forward. I choose peace over control. There's a kind of power in that. Not the loud, forceful kind we're used to, but the still, steady kind that comes from inner alignment. Because here's the truth. You can't surrender something you never cared about. Real surrender means letting go even when it matters deeply. Even when it scares you. Even when you don't know what's coming next. And that's what makes it so transformative. When we surrender, we're not saying, I don't care. We're saying, I trust that I don't have to carry all of this alone. It's a movement away from ego and towards something wiser. It's letting go of forcing outcomes and instead choosing presence, faith, and conscious action. Think of it like a river. You can try to swim upstream, fight against the current, burn out, sink. Or you can learn to float, to trust the current, to move with life instead of against it. That's surrender. And let me be clear, surrender doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop acting from fear. You stop acting from desperation, from scarcity, from the need to control everything. Instead, you act from clarity, from peace, from alignment. You say yes when it feels right. You say no when it doesn't. You show up, you do your part, but you release the obsession with outcomes. Because the truth is, outcomes were never yours to control. Only your intention. Only your energy. Only your presence. When you live from that place, life begins to respond differently. You feel more grounded, more open, more connected. You're no longer trying to push the river. You've become part of the flow. So if surrender still feels foreign or frightening, ask yourself, what am I really afraid will happen if I let go? What part of me still believes that struggle equals success? And what might open up if I chose trust instead of tension? Let today be a moment of redefinition. Surrender isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new relationship with life, with yourself, with the unknown. Chapter 3. The Flow of Life. Trusting the Invisible Path. There's a rhythm to life. A silent intelligence moving beneath everything. We don't always see it, but it's there. Just like the ocean has tides. Just like the moon has phases. We too are meant to move in cycles, in seasons, in flow. But we often forget that. We're taught to force, to push, to chase. To plan 5 years ahead and expect straight lines. But life doesn't work that way. Not really. The flow of life isn't logical, it's intuitive. It doesn't always give you answers. Sometimes it just gives you a feeling. A pull. A whisper. A moment of stillness in the chaos. And when we slow down enough to listen, we start to see something remarkable. Life is always communicating. That delay? Maybe it's protection. That rejection? Maybe it's redirection. That unexpected turn? Maybe it's guidance. But to receive those messages, we have to be willing to stop resisting what we don't yet understand. We have to trust the invisible path. And that's not always easy, especially when you're in a season of waiting, or uncertainty, or change. But just because you can't see the full picture doesn't mean the picture isn't forming. Just because you're walking in fog doesn't mean the road has disappeared. Trusting the flow means allowing life to unfold, without needing constant proof, without rushing clarity. It's about listening to the moment instead of forcing a timeline. Think about it like a seed. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the process. You water it, nourish it, give it light, and then you wait. The same is true for your path. You don't need to know every step right now. You just need to honor the one you're on. So often we think, I'll feel peace once I have certainty. But what if peace is what creates certainty? What if trust isn't about knowing the destination, but about knowing that wherever you end up, you'll be okay? You've made it this far. Through changes, heartbreaks, endings, and beginnings. You've survived storms you didn't think you could. And here you are. Still standing, still growing, still becoming. That is the evidence. Not certainty but resilience. Not a map but an inner compass. When you trust the flow of life, you stop trying to micromanage the journey. You begin to walk with faith. You begin to listen to your intuition. You begin to say yes to what feels aligned and no to what drains your soul. And slowly, you start to realize the path was never missing. It was simply unfolding, one sacred step at a time. So the next time you feel lost, confused, or uncertain, pause, breathe. Remember, you don't need all the answers. You just need to keep listening. The flow is already carrying you. Let it. Chapter 4. Practicing Surrender, Letting Go Without Giving Up. Surrender sounds beautiful in theory, but how do we actually live it? How do you let go when everything in you wants to hold on? How do you practice surrender without giving up on what matters most? The answer is subtle but powerful. You let go of the outcome, not the intention. You release control but not your commitment. You stop grasping but you keep showing up. Surrender is not about abandoning your dreams. It's about detaching from how they must happen. Saying, I still want this. I still care deeply. But I'm no longer going to suffer over it. Because real surrender is a practice. It's something we return to, not once but over and over again. In the small moments and the big ones. When plans change. When people disappoint us. When life doesn't unfold the way we imagined. Practicing surrender begins with awareness. Notice when you're tightening your grip. When your body feels tense, your mind races and fear takes the wheel. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now? What outcome am I obsessing over? What would happen if I just let go? Then comes acceptance. This moment is what it is. Not what you wanted. Not what you feared. Just what is. That doesn't mean you like it. It just means you're choosing to be with reality instead of resisting it. And from that space, presence, openness, clarity, you can take aligned action. Because surrender isn't passive. It doesn't mean sitting on the couch waiting for the universe to do the work. It means doing your part with devotion, then letting life meet you halfway. You still write the book. Send the message. Apply for the job. Set the boundary. Heal the wound. Show up for what matters. But you do it from trust, not fear. You let go of the need to control how it's received, when it happens, or who understands. That's the sweet spot. Engaged effort without attachment. And when fear inevitably creeps back in, because it will, return to the breath, to the moment, to that gentle reminder. You are not in control of everything, and you don't need to be. When you release the illusion of control, you create space for something greater to move through you. Grace, wisdom, synchronicity. You stop forcing and you start allowing. You begin to see that what's meant for you doesn't require gripping. Only openness. Only readiness. So don't give up. Give it over. To life. To your higher self. To the greater unfolding. You don't have to carry it all alone. You never did. Surrender is not a finish line. It's a daily devotion. A sacred returning to peace. And every time you choose it, even for a moment, you shift your energy from resistance to flow. From fear to trust. From striving to being. That is the practice. That is the path. Chapter 5. Living surrendered, courage, calm, and freedom. Surrender isn't a single act. It's a lifestyle. A way of moving through the world with grace, presence, and deep trust. It's not about escaping challenges. It's about meeting life with open hands instead of clenched fists. It's about living from your center, not your fear. When you live surrendered, you don't stop caring. You just stop clinging. You still dream. You still love. You still take bold steps. But you no longer believe that your worth, your peace, or your safety depend on the outcome. That's the real freedom. You stop chasing certainty and begin cultivating calm in the middle of uncertainty. You stop trying to be in control and start walking with courage even when the path is unclear. And here's the paradox. The more you surrender, the more powerful you become. Because your energy is no longer scattered in resistance. It's rooted in presence. You begin to radiate something different. Not urgency, not desperation, but depth, steadiness, and quiet confidence. Living surrendered doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it does become lighter. Because you're no longer carrying the unbearable weight of trying to control everything. You let life be life. You let people be who they are. You let yourself evolve without shame. And in that letting go, you make space for what's real. Peace, clarity, love, alignment. You begin to trust that even when things fall apart, you won't. That you are held by something deeper, wiser, greater. By the flow of life itself. And when fear arises, because it always will, you don't fight it. You breathe through it. You come back to the now. Because this moment, right here, is your sanctuary. Not the future. Not the plan. Not the outcome. No. This is where your power lives. This is where your freedom begins. To live surrendered is to become deeply intimate with life. To meet each moment as a teacher. To trust that you'll know what to do when it's time. And until then, to rest in the mystery. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay open. That is courage. That is calm. That is freedom. That is surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's remembering that your peace is not tied to control. It's rooted in trust. Every moment is an invitation to soften, to release, and to return to what matters. To live with courage, calm, and the quiet power that comes from letting go. So today, I invite you to carry this with you. Not just as a concept, but as a practice. Let life move through you. Let go of the fight. And trust that you are exactly where you're meant to be. If this episode brought you clarity or comfort, please share it with someone who might need it too. A friend, a loved one, or even your social media community. Sometimes, a single message at the right moment can shift everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing peace. And until next time, breathe deep, live surrendered, and trust the unfolding.